Wow, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Friday night edition of the Paranormal Portal. How you guys doing? Thank you for being here, and good God, that sounds like hell. Where's that coming from now, too? Man, I'm telling you, I've had a night already, and I haven't even started broadcasting, but this is some of the fun that we have here on the portal. You just never know what kind of cool things you're going to get into, but right now we've got the bubbling waters, and I can't even get the phone lines to connect, so hold on a sec. Those of you on TFR, I'm going to reconnect to you in just a second. I got to try to reestablish this connection because this is absolute horse manure. I'll be right back. Those of you on TFR, iHeart, tune in to TalkStream Live. Just hang on the line. Those of you on YouTube, just stick with me. We'll get through this. All right. And there we go. I really couldn't get the phone lines connected tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you on YouTube, I tried, and it's ringing. It's ringing. It's just ringing. That's it. It doesn't answer. It doesn't do anything. One time I got an error that there was too many people in the conference, which is, it's like I'm the only administrator of it. So very strange. But I hope now that we are broadcasting live on TFR as well. Are you hearing me on TFR? Please let me know. Let me know if you are hearing me. But it's nice and quiet now, which is good. But anyway, this is the nature of live broadcasting when you're a kind of a one-man show is there's no one else to fall back on. There's nothing else I can do. All right, Bam's hearing me. Thank you, Bam. I appreciate it. We are now live and underway. There is no phone calls available currently, and Bill reads me 5x5, which I imagine is better than anything under that. So I think that's good. 5x5 sounds good. But anyway, welcome to the show. And hope you guys are all doing great. Hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving celebration for those of you in the U.S. Yesterday, I got all kinds of fat and happy, and I actually took an afternoon nap, and I was thinking about doing a show, and then I ended up falling asleep on the couch. So that just became a non-issue, unfortunately. And so I apologize because I never did commit fully to doing it, just for the record, but I thought it might be fun to do it, but anyway, what do you do? But I hope all of your guys' Thanksgiving out there was wonderful as well. I know this is a real weird time to be alive. Lots of strangeness and intrigue and suspense and all kinds of weirdness going on all around us. But I guess it's just up to us to just hold on to our sanity and make it as normal as we can. If that's even possible, I don't know. But great to see you all. Thank you all for being here, and a special thank you to the Freaky Friday crew. Kev and Scotty are always amazing, and it's always a great pleasure to follow them here on the Paranormal Portal. It's just me tonight. I don't have any bells or whistles, and I don't even have phone lines as it is now. I'm going to try to reconnect again over the next break, but it's just the way it rolls here, folks. Sometimes things work brilliantly, and other times not so much. And tonight is not so much as far as the phone lines are considered. But anyway, if you're new to the show, thank you for coming in and being a part of what we're doing. This is the Paranormal Portal. It's our place for all things paranormal. So if you love some ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, strange phenomena, unexplained mysteries kind of things, that's where we live. That's our home right there. We're set up right in the middle of that. So we talk about all those things here on the Paranormal Portal, and usually we have phones available, so there's always an avenue for you guys to call in and be a part of that too. But currently that's not, that's not going to be a possibility. But anyway, I'm just glad I was able to reconnect and get a clean line, which is awesome because that roaring in the connection on Skype was horrible. So let's get started. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I like to go through what I call the hot sheets. And so I've created a whole new paranormal news segment for those of you on YouTube. You're going to be able to appreciate this much more than those of you on TFR because you're audio only. I don't even know if you're going to hear the theme music, but it's time for the news. Boom. That was my intro. To those of you on YouTube, that's my new news intro. To those of you on TFR, iHeart, in TalkStream Live, that was me sitting quietly. But anyway, I got some articles I want to go over with you guys tonight. And I think they're kind of interesting. The first one tonight is absolutely bizarre. I saw it. I haven't read through it, but I was like, oh my God. I'm not sure what's going on in this situation, but whatever it is absolutely bizarre. And I'm going to throw it up on screen here. And I'm going to put a link. No, I don't think it'll be link worthy because there's really nothing visual about this article. It's just a story. But it's coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. And it says, dead mink are rising from the grave in Denmark. Now, this story is posted Friday, the 27th of November, 2020. So today, this story posted. The dead are rising, at least if they're minks. And if you're not sure what a mink is, they're a little weasel-like, almost like a ferret, but incredibly soft little critters. And apparently deadly for if you're a rat. They are used as rat catchers as well, which I found absolutely incredible. But anyway, let's see what it says about these dead mink coming back to life, if that isn't disturbing enough, right? I guess they had something to be thankful for. Let's see what it says. Mink have been culled and buried due to the COOF virus and have started emerging from beneath the soil. The animals, which are typically farmed for their fur, have been killed in large numbers recently due to fears over a mutated version of the COOF that has threatened to spread to humans. More fear, folks. That's a lot of fear porn. Yeah, now we got to worry about the minks getting us sick too, apparently. Man, that's just a bunch of trash sciences as far as I'm concerned. Not that it couldn't ever happen, but I don't think that kind of leap happens readily at all. But anyway, it says in Denmark, mass graves have been dug to dispose of the many thousands of culled mink. As it turns out, however, burying them under a thin layer of soil isn't good enough, as despite being deceased, the animals have been starting to rise up out of the ground all by themselves. As the bodies decay, gases can be formed. National Police spokesman Thomas Christensen told the Danish Broadcasting Corporation. This causes the whole thing to expand a little. Oh no, they got little bloated mink corpses rising. In this way, in the worst of cases, the mink get pushed out of the ground. To make matters worse, some of the burial sites are close to lakes and streams, and there is concern that the mass graves could contaminate the water supply. Efforts are now underway to shovel more soil on top to mitigate the problem. This is a natural process, said Christensen. Unfortunately, 1 meter of soil is not just 1 meter of soil. It depends on what type of soil it is. The problem is that the sandy soil in West Jutland is too light. So we had to lay more soil on top. Well, that's not quite what I was expecting from that headline. That was a little misleading, I think. I guess it was literal. Dead mink are rising from the grave in Denmark. That's true. However, when I think of rising, I'm going full zombie in my head. But that apparently was not the case. So that's the first of our articles from the hot sheets tonight. Let's see where else we're going to go as these continue. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I suppose it's possible. I just don't like things like that being done based on fear. And it kind of reminds me of back in the whole, I don't know, was it the Arab Spring thing? When they culled they went through like Egypt, and everybody that was a pig farmer, they had their whole herds culled. And without compensation too. It's like, there's a risk, and of course Egypt turned to be ruled by the Muslim Brotherhood. So, according to the laws of Islam, having pigs is not a good thing. And so they culled those entire herds and their livelihoods and said, hey, too bad. And I wonder if these people at least got compensated for their livestock of mink. I don't know what else to call them. I don't know. It's a cash crop of some sorts, I guess. I didn't know mink pelts were still in demand. I thought that was kind of an old thing anyway, but I guess people are still using them for whatever reason. But there you have it. Here's one about a strange glowing object near Stonehenge. I'm going to look at it and see if it's visual. I'll copy the links over to TFR and I'll put it on screen for those of you on YouTube. But let me see what it entails here. Actually, it does have a video with it, so I will copy it. So those of you in the chats can see it. Copy. And I'll paste it over there for you guys so you guys can enjoy all the fun that's possible. But this is apparently a glowing object near Stonehenge, which, if there's ever going to be a place for glowing objects to appear, Stonehenge seems about right. It does to me anyway. All right, so let's see what this says. And I may look at the video. We'll see what it says, though. A couple driving near Wiltshire Monument last month spotted something unusual hovering over the area. The unidentified object, which resembled a bright, flat disc, was captured on camera by Tash Minto. Their name is Tash Minto. Wow. That sounds like something out of Star Wars. No offense, Tash Minto, if you happen to be listening, but that is really an unusual name. And her partner, Tony Waterhouse, who had been driving along A303 near Mere on October 31st. I would not have thought in my wildest dreams that I would make a video like this, says Minto. On the way back from Devon yesterday, we noticed a huge bright light in the sky on the left side of the A303 road. It was orange and had a very strong artificial light. My partner said there may have been more lights, but I could have sworn it was a solid body. We thought of drones or reflectors, but by no means matched their size. The light was constant under the clouds and motionless. We rotated for about 3 minutes, and it says we rotated. I think they meant it rotated for about 3 minutes and then disappeared. As things stand, it remains unclear what the object could have been. I'm a fan of nature, and this didn't seem to come from anything like the sun or the moon. It felt like it was coming from something artificial, Minto told the Daily Star. Tony said it was definitely little green men. Personally, I think they are out there. They won't be very little. I think they'll be giants. Well, I guess that could be. We don't know how big those aliens are, but it seems like their craft are generally pretty small, so I don't know. I'm not sure, but let me, I just want to browse through this little video quick to see if there's anything worthy of showing. It's 1:23 long. Okay. So there's a good spot to kind of start it here. So let me back up a little bit. And we'll put it on screen. And those of you in TFR, if you want to open that link, please, by all means, go ahead. It does show a video in there. I'm not going to play the sound for those of you that are watching along from YouTube, but we'll look at what's going on here. And so they're driving around the A303, like they said, and here's the object. That is pretty spectacular looking. It does look like one object. I don't know what the hell happened there. It's coming back, I guess. Yeah, there it is again. Very curious. That's a heck of a deal. That sure doesn't look like any kind of normal aircraft that I have seen. I just want to move ahead here a little more to see if there's more to see. I guess there is up here. Let's look at this. It really does. God. Honestly, honest to God, folks. And I've shared that I've had an experience before. This is very close. Very, very, very close to what I witnessed. If not exactly what I witnessed. When I've shared that I've seen a flying saucer, and then it's the two pie plates with the panels of light in between that were rotating, and this does look to be rotating, except it almost looks steady. It's going so quickly, but I think this is very similar to what I witnessed through those darn binoculars. But it was invisible with the naked eye, but that is really cool. Wow. This is probably the closest thing I've ever seen to what I witnessed being captured on camera. That's really wild. Very, very cool. Huh. Well, there you have it, folks. Apparently that was up near Stonehenge there, so that's pretty incredible. Up near Salisbury there. I think I think those old monoliths mean something. Maybe they know what they mean. Maybe the ancients, the ancient peoples that built them did it in cooperation with aliens. That's been obviously theorized forever, that those are kind of an alien construct or something of the type. I don't know. I'm not sure how far the bluestones that were used in the monument were actually carried or traveled. I think the quarry was like 6 miles away or something like that, from where the stones came from to where they stood them up on on the Stonehenge site. I might be absolutely mistaken by that, but in any case, it's a heck of a thing to try to understand how some prehistoric culture managed to make that happen. But then again, we got the pyramids, which are, equally as old and curious, or older. I'm not sure which is older, Stonehenge or the pyramids. Probably the pyramids. The Great Pyramids are. But I'm not an archaeologist, so I could be absolutely wrong. So let me just take another look here, see if there was anything else I wanted to cover from this site. No, we've already covered those things. Okay, so this one is pretty much it. No, that's not. We've covered that. Yeah, I think I've hit all the hot spots here. I thought there was one. There was some mention. I had an article here that I wanted to try to find, but it was having to do with the Arecibo dish, the famous radio telescope. The Arecibo radio telescope is actually being dismantled. Here it is. I found it. And I thought that's kind of sad. I don't know what's happened to it. It sounds like it's come under quite a bit of disrepair and is not safe anymore. But let's read what they're talking about with the Arecibo telescope. And this is again coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. Again, this is a great site if you want some great headlines, quick little articles to read about the paranormal and the weird and the unexplained. They got a bunch of them there. So it's the iconic Arecibo telescope close to collapsing. Wow. It says the decision has been taken to dismantle the world-famous telescope after it suffered catastrophic damage. Situated in Puerto Rico, constructed during the 1960s, the instantly recognizable Arecibo Observatory is characterized by its huge 1,000-foot dish built into a natural depression in the hills. It looks like it's built in a caldera. God. For over 50 years, it's been observed the heavens and taught us much about the universe, while at the same time becoming a pop culture icon thanks to its appearance in various movies and video games. It famously appeared in the James Bond movie GoldenEye, as well as in Jodie Foster's Contact. More recently, however, damage caused to the telescope by Hurricane Maria in 2017, as well as by 2 earthquakes in 2019 and 2020, has caused 2 of its support cables to snap, leaving it dangerously unsupported with the potential to collapse at any time. Officials have now concluded that repairs would put the workers at too great a risk, and the difficult decision has been made to dismantle the facility entirely. It marks a sad end to a remarkable era of radio astronomy for the observatory. Everyone involved with this facility should be proud of what you have achieved, said Eddie Bernice Johnson and Frank Lucas of the U.S. House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Arecibo will be remembered for an illustrious scientific legacy. It does look like it's kind of beat to hell. I'll throw the link over in TFR, and you guys can see it if you choose to. I think pretty much everybody recognizes the Arecibo telescope. It's one of the biggies. It's this impressive looking thing that's built right into the mountains, as they said, but it was a hell of a feat of engineering back in the day, and it still is, I think, to today. But I just wanted to put up this video and just see. I don't know how long it is or whatever. But there's of course, it says Arecibo Observatory to be decommissioned. I'm not sure what the damage looks like, but there was a still screen at the beginning of this that really did look pretty tragic, that the base of it. But they were talking about 2 of 3 of the support cables had snapped, so radio dish has been deemed too dangerous to repair. That's actually tragic, but if you look at that size and scale of that, there it is. There's some of the collapsed receiver dish there. So yeah, it has been brutalized by all of that, and I don't know. It had a pretty long, huge, illustrious career, as bringing a lot of discoveries home to us. So that's kind of sad to see such an icon disappear from our time, but they'll just build something bigger, better, and more impressive than even this. So I think that's kind of the way of technologies. So say goodbye to Arecibo, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a thing of the past very soon. So Let's see what else is going on here. I got about 5 minutes. There's a couple other little articles I wanted to cover here before I moved on. This one I'm going to talk about next. Here's another one from the space. This is actually from Mars, allegedly, and we'll go over this and see what you guys think. But this is having to do with a NASA probe captured on Mars the ruins of a huge ancient structure. This is coming from animalien.com, and I'm here to tell you, if that's not an actual structure, I have no idea what kind of natural formation this could be. I'm going to give you guys the link in TFR again, but we'll definitely be putting this on screen because there's no way in hell that's natural. That just couldn't be. Those are some serious right angles and absolutely geometrically sound. There must have been a structure there. But hold on, let me get this pasted over, and we'll continue with our discussion about a structure on Mars. And what it says is Mars Global Surveyor arrived on Mars on September 11th, 1997, and helped make many discoveries, including the sites of ancient rivers and meteor craters. In the images published by NASA, you can see an object on the surface of Mars which doesn't fit the definition of a natural object. I'm actually going to put it on as we're reading this. Its outlines are too geometrically correct and look like the ruins of a huge building. And there's the images there. I mean, there's no way. That is definitely a foundation of something. Oh, my God. NASA admitted that they do not have a definitive answer to this riddle. They confirmed the presence of the object on the surface of Mars, but they refused to comment on the assumption that these are the remains of a huge building or fortress. What the hell else could it be? I don't know what kind of geology they got going on there, but unless that ground fractures in absolute perfect squares, I don't think that's going to be happening. That's not a natural formation. From all the photos I've seen from Mars Global Surveyor, this is probably the most intriguing photo I've seen on Mars. Looks like a square, fort, ruins, or an ancient city surrounded by huge walls made by a Martian ancient civilization, wrote one researcher. Mars Global Surveyor completed its primary mission in January 2001 and was in its third extended mission phase when, on the 2nd of November 2006, the spacecraft failed to respond to messages and commands. A faint signal was detected 3 days later, which indicates that it had gone into safe mode. Attempts to recontact the spacecraft and resolve the problem failed, and NASA officially ended the mission on January of 2007. But there it is, folks. That is not natural. That is absolutely a geometrically perfect foundation of something. And I don't know what kind of scale we're looking at here. I have no idea if it's the size of a house or if it's the size of a city. I don't know. But that is just mind-boggling. And how could they not acknowledge that that would most probably be artificially created? That is intense. I mean, really intense. This is the first time I've seen these images. I'm blown away. I'm now firmly in that there's definitely been a lot on Mars camp. Just seeing this image, that's just way too... I mean, this looks like a rise and a slope here, a rise and a slope over here, and then there's this perfectly symmetrical square pattern. That is intense. Well, there you have it, folks. I guess it's more rectangular, but let's see. Bill says, I've seen the Richard C. Hoagland picture of the Martian rat antennas Shuban C2 cam website in the past. Okay. I'm not sure what the Richard Hoagland picture is, but thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. And these things are out there, right? There's obviously the face on Mars has been the discussion of a lot of debate. That's a shoe, okay. And like it's really a shoe, Bill? There's a picture of a shoe and of a Martian rat and a tennis shoe. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Again, I don't claim to know much about this kind of stuff, but I do believe I do believe Mars has had civilizations on it. I don't know if it's a lot older than Earth, or at least the civilizations would have been a lot older than what we have here. It seems like it's. I know a lot of people theorize that maybe we came from Mars. Maybe there's some kind of hopscotching going on back in the day. And you know, if you look at our really ancient past, you'll start looking at artifacts out of time. Maybe we hopscotch back and forth between Earth and Mars. Maybe that's the gig. I don't know, because you know, when you've got artifacts buried in stone that have no business being there, there was obviously something going on here well before we thought, by millions and millions of years. I don't know. But we're at the break, ladies and gentlemen. So that's going to end our news segment. So don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal in just a couple minutes. I'll wait here for you. It's my new soundtrack. What do y'all think? The phones just aren't going to work. There's no love on the phones tonight. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I've been trying to get these phones to connect. I tried heroically, and I got the static back. Woo! So I can see I'm going to probably have to reconnect TFR again as well. It's just one of those nights, so hold on to your hats, TFR. I'm going to disconnect quick, and I'm going to reconnect to you, so don't go away, don't go anywhere. And I'll be right back in just a moment here. Oh, my God, I just don't like these kind of things, you know? It shouldn't ought to be this hard. Let's get it back on here. There we are. Now I think we're back on TFR and streaming live on YouTube. So I don't know. I think that's going to be it for me trying to connect to the phone lines. So I'm going to do my best to watch the chats, which is usually a failing effort for me, to be honest with you. I'm not really good at it. Like Kev Baker's great, man. He can keep an eye on like 3 things. I don't know how the guy does it, but he's got that ability to multitask. I'm, however, not so gifted. So if you do want to say something to me, if you're in YouTube, definitely do the @Paranormal Portal first, so that makes that big orange, and maybe I'll see it. And if you're in TFR, I'll just do my best to check that as much as I can. But I got a lot of stuff to bring you guys tonight. We're doing a lot about cryptids tonight, but we're doing a lot about other things too. I wanted to start off with something that I was really interested in. I don't know if this may kind of qualify as a cryptid, but I don't know, because sometimes these things appear to have an intelligence, and I don't know, but that might be a really huge stretch on my part to say, hey, this might be a cryptid. It probably isn't, but it does seem to have a scope and a purpose to it, which is really weird. And what I'm talking about is a phenomenon that's known as a killer fog. Now, in and on its surface, I would say that most killer fogs are probably some kind of industrial accidents. And Lord knows, with all of the chemicals and Franken things that we're doing out there with foods and sciences, that, you know, we've probably made a few chemical fogs in our killer fogs in our days. But what if there's another kind? And we're just going to read this, but this article is called Killer Fog, Deadly Vapor, Both Natural and Paranormal. So apparently there's a paranormal kind of this too. So let's see what's going on. And this is nothing visual to it, so I'm just gonna read it for you. It says, untold numbers of shipwrecks and car accidents have been attributed to reduced visibility that fogs creates. Ships rely on lighthouses and other beacons to help them through. And in San Francisco, drivers have the emergency fog alert system, an array of webcams that keep vigil on the arrival of fog from the bay. A whole slew of car accidents and numerous deaths were blamed on fog near Calhoun, Tennessee, from the early 1970s to the 1990s. In this case, the fog was intensified by the polluting output of a local paper plant. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, American industry. No, I'm not necessarily a anti-progress kind of person. I know that's, you know, we do have to probably mix things up a little bit, and we can't just chew on oatmeal all day and hug trees. But at the same time, I think that we are very environmentally unfriendly, and we need to alter that as well. So I think there's a balance there that we've lost. So just to put that out there, because I don't want people to, oh, he's another tree hugger. Oh God, another granola guy. I do feel like I have a energy or a soul that's very aligned with nature. But I also understand that, you know, our modern world is full of convenience that would not always be there if it weren't for some of the weird sciences that we embrace. So, and those, of course, have a risk to them. So, just my caveat at the beginning of this. So it says there have also been numerous cases in which fog has killed people directly. In virtually every case, these killer fogs have been the carriers of industrial atmospheric pollution. Again, 60 Belgians were killed in 1930 when fog conditions concentrated pollutants in the Meuse Valley for 6 days. Oh, man. Nearly half the population of Donora and Webster, Pennsylvania, were sickened in late October 1948 by a fog that held industrial pollution in the small towns. So dense was the fog that one could not see clearly across the city street. The death toll, 20 lives. Thousands of Londoners were killed in December of 1952 when a toxic fog descended on the English Channel. The fog carried a deadly mixture of dense coal smoke, literally poisoned the populace, and still considered one of the deadliest environmental incidents on record. The black fog was so thick that some reported they could not even see their feet as they walked the London streets. The lethal fog lasted from December 5th through the 9th. That's 4 days. Oh. And in the end, as many as 12,000 were dead from its effects. On May of 1989, the residents of Colham in Oxfordshire, England, were plagued by nosebleeds and sore throats due to a thick fog that clouded the village. Source is The World's Most Incredible Stories, 1992 Barnes & Noble Books. In mid-October 2005, the city of Lagos, Nigeria, was enveloped by a mysterious fog that caused serious illnesses. After people began complaining of severe stomach pains and eye irritation, the governor of the region closed all the city schools as a precaution, and people were driven out of their places of work because of the bad odor, and visibility in some places was reduced to 100 meters. Laboratory tests of the fog vapor showed that it contained high levels of sulfuric acid. A broken petroleum pipe might have been the cause. Occasionally, fog kills even without pollutants. A fog bank killed more than 5,000 songbirds over the Bay of Fundy between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, Canada, on June 2004. The birds apparently died of hypothermia when they flew into the cold fog. Lobster fishermen said the birds were just dropping from the sky, some landing dead on their boats. That's normal fog and pollution, but there are kinds of fog that form in the realm of the paranormal, and the effects can be even stranger. There's a fog that forms when condensed water droplets swirl in the air close to the ground, and then there's the fog that materializes from dimensions unknown. A glowing fog bank that transports those who enter it across time and dimensions sounds like a premise for a science fiction thriller. In her book Time Storms, Amazing Evidence for Time Warps, Space Rifts, and Time Travel, however, author Jenny Randles makes a compelling case that these strange fogs really do exist. She documents many incidents in which the unsuspecting people, while either driving, walking, or otherwise going about their business, encountered a glowing white mist. And in some cases, these people disappeared, only to reappear sometime later in a state of bewilderment. One driver was transported over 600 miles from where he entered the glowing fog. 3 soldiers witnessed the bizarre disappearance of an entire battalion in 1915 when a fog bank seemed to swallow them up, and it occurred during the infamous Gallipoli campaign of World War I. 3 members of a New Zealand field company watched as a battalion of the Royal Norfolk Regiment marched up the hillside in Suvla Bay, Turkey, into the fog. Well, they never came out. After the last of the battalion had entered the cloud, they said it slowly lifted off the hillside to join the other clouds in the sky. Their disappearance has never been accounted for. Ariel D. tells a story of an apparition that came out of a light blue fog. It was mid-June, around 5 p.m., and I was riding my stallion back from my neighbor's house. When I got about 1 mile from my neighbor's home, I thought I saw something a little further ahead. It looked like a small amount of light blue fog, and I slowly got off my horse and walked with him towards the foggy substance. And when I got within about 8 yards or so of it, I was stuck in my tracks with fear. I was terrified because I never had an experience quite like this one before with a ghost. He looked around 25 or maybe a little older. His skin was spotted like he had been burned. He was wearing old clothes. His pants looked sort of like chaps, but it was hard to tell because I was too busy looking at his face. I had just enough time to get a good look, and he disappeared, sort of vanishing slowly like the fog he was in was swept away like a gust of wind. Is an electronic fog responsible for many of the unexplained incidents and disappearances in the infamous Bermuda Triangle? That is the assertion made by Rob McGregor and Bruce Gernon in their book The Fog, which is published by Llewellyn Worldwide in 2005. Gernon himself is a first-hand witness and survivor of this strange phenomena. On December 4th, 1970, he and his dad were flying their Bonanza A-36 over the Bahamas. En route to Bimini, they encountered strange cloud phenomena, particularly a tunnel-shaped vortex, the size of which the plane's wings scraped as they flew. For about 10 seconds, Gernon felt as if he were experiencing zero gravity. All of the plane's electronic and magnetic navigational instruments malfunctioned. The magnetic compass spun inexplicably, and as they neared the end of the tunnel, they expected to see the clear blue sky. Instead, they saw only a dull grayish white for miles. No ocean, sky, or horizon. After flying for 34 minutes, a time corroborated by every clock on board, they found themselves over Miami Beach, a flight that normally would take 75 minutes. McGregor and Gernon believe that this electronic fog that Gernon experienced may have also been responsible for the famous disappearance of Flight 19 and other vanishing aircraft and ships. Beware of the fog. And that's an interesting article. We've certainly covered other instances of this on the portal where we had a caller, and I've mentioned it just recently before, but this caller was talking about they were exploring this area. And I wish I could remember more of the details, but God, I don't remember all of the details, but I remember the details about the fog. And they said that they found themselves on a hillside, and I believe it was in a cemetery. And there was this shimmering fog that was just slowly descending down the hillside towards them. That was dark. It was already dark and late, but they watched it come and come and come, and as it got closer, well, they had flashlights. So they turned on the flashlights, shined it in the direction of the fog, but the fog seemed to intelligently retreat from that light and would move back up the hill in response until the lights were turned off, where it would descend again. And they repeated this several times. And the person goes on to say that, they were just unsure of what to do about it, but it was definitely reacting to the presence of their artificial light. It was moving away from it. So that's a huge conundrum in and of itself, because there's an awareness to this fog. This isn't just a benign substance that's spilling down with gravity. It's showing an intelligence or an awareness of its surroundings, and apparently it doesn't like light. And so it would retreat back, would come back down, and it had this shimmering blue. When that person talked about seeing the ghost, very similar in my mind to what I remember the person saying when they called in. They said that a couple, I think it was a man and a woman, decided just to walk through. And so they did. They just walked up into the fog, and they found themselves instantly transported to a whole different place. So they marched up into the fog, and the next thing they knew, they were standing on a grassy plain, and it was daylight. And where they were, it was dusk or night. And it was a whole different scene. There was no incline for the hill or anything. They were just in this weird place that they have no accounting for. They have no idea why they would be there. After seeing this, and I don't remember the amount of time they said, but they just retreated back out and found themselves back in the cemetery where their friends were. And they emerged from the fog, and that was the meat of the story. But the other part of the story that was weird was that they apparently got there by means of roads that didn't exist. Like they could never recreate that path that they took to get to that place. And they visited that place in short succession a few times. And they said they encountered the fog, I think, more than once, and it was on one of the subsequent trips that they ended up walking into it. But after that, after they had that experience, they could not find those roads again that brought them there, and they couldn't find them on any map or anything. It was just like suddenly that path didn't exist anymore. And so that's a really peculiar one, because it seems to have an intelligence or a purpose or or something more. It's not just some precipitation that's captured into the atmosphere. It's something more. What is it? Hell, I don't know. But is it a spiritual thing? Is it the merging of dimensions, that maybe something was going on at this point in time at that location that caused two worlds to kind of collide in a sense and create that weird fog? I don't know. But it's enough to make you wonder. Things that make you go, right, Ethan? I look up and I see Ethan go, just like a big homer. All right, so that's killer fogs. I don't know. Again, most of the killer part of that article was due to industrial pollution and atmospheric issues filled with industrial pollution, which is tragic, sad. It's horrible. Yeah. I mean, we got to do better than this. As a people, we got to do better than this. But some of it seemed to have intelligence, seemed to have another purpose to it. And, it's up to you to decide what you believe, what you don't believe. It's just my job to bring you the paranormal and present it to you. I'm like a lawyer pleading my case here. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot yet to be discovered. When we come back from the break, we're gonna talk about some time slips. And they were mentioned in that last article, and so I thought it'd be fun to actually dive into them a little bit. It's not going to be comprehensive, but I'm very excited by things like time slips, because it's definitely shows the fluidity of our reality. That it's not a rigid construct. It's not just walls and and floors and ceilings. It's fluid. It's dynamic, and I think that's exciting. If you're new to the Paranormal Portal, I would appreciate if you got subscribed. If you're not already subscribed, we got 69 listeners. Awesome on YouTube. Awesome. That's a good number. Not to be gross. I'm not being inappropriate. It's just the year I was born. So, but I'd love for you to become subscribed. I'd love for you to want to keep tuning into when we're doing live shows and such. So if you're on YouTube and you're checking it out and you're going, that's not so bad, then hit the red subscribe button and join the fun every time we're on. We do broadcast live on YouTube from Wednesday nights through Sunday nights, and then Monday and Tuesday are off. But other than that, we are broadcasting tonight also on TFR and iHeart and TuneIn and TalkStream Live. And so that's why we're taking the breaks. On Friday and Saturday nights, we got to take the breaks. And so, because the networks take the breaks. So in order to keep everything together, I created those little video segments that I play during then for you guys to not listen to commercials. So I hope that's reasonable. I just always get messages. I haven't got them for a while now, because I think people must understand, but I used to get messages like, get rid of those breaks. What are the breaks for? And the thing is with the YouTube videos, I could edit out the breaks, but if I did, then I would be editing out the live chat too. And I think the live chat is really a big part of our show. It always has been. A big part of our community is all of those people in there chatting. And so I would hate to remove that, because many times they are a big part of the conversation. So I don't want to just edit out the breaks. The breaks can be skipped if you're watching a replay. So anyway, let's see what I can read that will take about 7 minutes. Where is it? There it is. I was going to read something from the Singular Fortean. This is a great site as well. Singular Fortean is they do a great job. It's run by the Waylands, and I don't know their first names at all, but they're a couple, and they're great. Brilliant job putting together a comprehensive site full of lots of amazing phenomena. And apparently they're doing a documentary as well about Mothman type of sightings around the Midwest, specifically in the Chicago area, is what I'm gleaning from the reports that I'm getting. And I don't think it's quite done yet. I think it will be soon, but when it comes out, definitely check it out. And I'll certainly be happy to plug it on our show, because I've just really loved their site for a long time now. Oh, it's Tobias and Emily Wayland, for the record. And yeah, just brilliant. But they do a lot of reporting there on the Mothman. And most people, when they hear the Mothman, they're thinking Point Pleasant. Point Pleasant is, where the bridge collapse happened in the 60s or 50s or 40s, whenever the hell it was. But a lot of people chalk up, well, that's when the Mothman was there. But just so you know, there's still sightings of Mothman, and especially in this Chicago area. And I think that's really interesting because, it's not just a one-off kind of phenomena or just a small period of time, boom, it happened, it's done. The phenomena continues, and there are these winged humanoid beings with many times glowing red eyes that seem to be flying in and around in the O'Hare airports and in the areas around there. And I wonder what's going on there. There's some triangle, and I forget what the name of the triangle is. Of course, everybody knows the Bermuda Triangle, but there's another triangle if it has to do with the Lake Michigan or Lake Superior. I can't remember which, but I'm a geographically challenged person at the best of days. So to recall exactly which triangle it is, I can't remember. But it has to do with the Chicago area and part of the Great Lakes area and Michigan as well, I think. So there's a lot of strangeness that happens in there, and one of which is these winged people being sighted and observed in Chicago. I won't have time to read the article right now, but we'll get into that when we come back, because I think it's interesting. Now, as a side note, the Mothman in the Point Pleasant, West Virginia experience was considered an omen of, that its sightings were predicting or foretelling of the upcoming disaster of that bridge collapse. Now, there's also rumors or people that say that the Mothman was sighted in Minnesota prior to that bridge collapse, that it was sighted in New York City on Manhattan Island prior to the 9/11 Twin Towers destruction, that there was Mothman sighted in Chernobyl prior to the meltdown over there, and several other disasters. There are, and I suppose they're almost apocryphal reports because I've never heard anything discussed too comprehensively on it other than claims were made that the Mothman appeared. So is it some sort of sign of impending doom? Maybe, but they've been appearing around Chicago now for a long time. I mean, in many ways, Chicago is its own kind of tragedy, but there hasn't been any huge, large-scale tragedy in Chicago that I'm aware of, other than the ongoing tragedy of violence and such, but nothing that would seem to be a huge incident that would require the presence of these figures. I don't know. I don't really believe that personally. I don't know that they are foretelling of bad events or not. I don't know. I guess if they were indeed in all of those places, that's certainly largely suspect. But maybe they were just there. maybe they're everywhere. Who knows? I got to tell you guys also on Wednesday's show, we went over that video having to do with the dog man that was covered on Dark Waters channel, where the African-American guy filmed it out his back door, running under a street lamp across the far side of his lawn. I went frame by frame by frame by frame, backwards and forwards through that, and I can't get my head around the fact that it is definitely something that is there, and it's moving. It's running past the frame. And you can see that it is it digigrade or plantigrade? I don't remember what the backward knee one is, but you can see the knee does bend, as you would expect, a dog-like leg to bend as it runs fully upright. It almost does. I got to say, Kathy, Wonder Woman, said, it reminds me of an emu. And that's not a bad comparison to how that leg bends, because it goes up at a 90-degree angle, comes forward, shoots out, and then like the foot first, and it's a small foot, and then hits and then pushes off. And I think in the course of that video, as I watched it backwards and forwards and was watching the rise and fall of the figure, there's only a very subtle rise and fall to it. It's almost completely on a plane as it's running, which is incredible all by itself. But there is a rise and fall to it. But I think what we're observing in that sequence of the video that is visible is only one step. So it's flying into frame from a previous step that we don't see. It's getting to about the telephone pole, and it's planting another foot and then stepping through. So that entire distance was one stride as far as I can tell. And it was like in the halfway point of one stride to planting the foot, pushing off to what I assume would be about the halfway point of the next stride, which was a number of feet. That's a number of feet distance. And I was really impressed by that. It was really very, very incredible. I'm going to put that link to that video. The link that I have is from Darkwater's channel, and he apparently interviewed the guy, talked with the guy and stuff that was in that experience. But I'm really thinking they caught something absolutely spectacular in that video, but you guys will have to be the judge. All right, guys, it's the hour break. We're going to be right back after a couple minutes. Don't go away. Bill, I like that. That's from Doctor Who. I remember that episode. Bill in the TFR chat posted an image. I remember that one. All right, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Just make sure that you're well fed.
ever sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Yes, they can, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. Hour number 2 is upon us, if you can believe that. 2 full hours tonight. We're done with hour number 1. I hope that was incredibly entertaining, and now we are launching into hour number 2. How's our sound? A little hissy. I wonder if I should just reconnect. I think I will. Something about those breaks going in and out is screwing with our sound a little bit tonight. So hold on, TFR. I'll be right back with you in just a moment. Don't leave me. I'll be right back. Got to clear up this sound. And so we will. Listen to that. How much cleaner that is without that. Ugh. All right, let's try it again. And we're back, and it's pristine. It's nice. It's lovely. There's no bad sound. So that's awesome. I hope. What is that? What's genu recurvatum? Genu recurvatum. That's a lot of Latin there, Aussie. I don't know what the hell that means, but it sounds like the bending of the knee kind of thing. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't know, brother. I just know that when Vic Cundiff was on the show, he talked about the legs of a true dog man being backwards with the knees. You know, what we think are the knees would actually be more like their ankle. But it's just that if you look at a dog's legs, their knee is actually up by their ribs. You know, they have the thigh, and then they have that short femur, and then they have a long extension from the knee down to the ankle, and then a long extension again from their ankle down to their foot pad. And so it's like the whole from what we consider their knees is actually like their ankle. So anyway, but he called it digigrade or plantigrade, one of the two. I know he used both of those terms. I don't remember which was which now, but that's the way my mind works. I keep things in my mind for a period of time, and then it all gets sideways. I don't know if I ever could remember. That'd be great. But we're into hour number 2, and we were just about to talk about some more strangeness. I do want to do the time slip thing, and we will do that very soon. But I wanted to cover this one story from the Waylands. This is, again, singularfortean.com is the website. Great site. And they do a lot of covering of these strange Mothmen. I've noticed that this is something they're really focusing on because, well, this is a really long story, too. I'll read parts of it. I don't want to read their whole article. But it says, Manuel Navarrete of UFO Clearinghouse recently received a report from a man who said he saw a 6 to 7 foot tall, very big bat that was also very human-like in appearance. Last July, while on break from his job as an air traffic controller in Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. Now, that's incredible because, if this guy is an air traffic controller, he's not probably hitting the sauce real hard and seeing things. So let's see. According to the initial report received by Navarrete, it says, I worked at O'Hare International Airport for the last 7 years as a member of the air traffic control team. And in my time, have overseen the flight operations in and out of the airport hundreds of times in my time. I have seen many strange things around the airport, but none that have been as spectacular as the sighting I had back in July of 2020. I was working a very late evening at TRACON, TRACON, and had just walked away from one of our mandatory breaks. These breaks help us rejuvenate and help break up the monotony of what can be an otherwise tedious routine in order to prevent us from falling asleep. During these breaks, I usually go out for a walk to help clear my mind and head and for a change of scenery. Well, as I was walking towards one of the terminal buildings, when I noticed some movement out of the corner of my eye. For some unknown reason, I stopped and turned in the direction of the movement and noticed a large black shape coming to a rest on the ground near a light pole. Excuse me. This thing was at least 6 to 7 feet tall and jet black. It looked like a very big bat, but was also very human-like in appearance. I noticed that it sported a very large and impressive set of black membranous wings that also looked like the wings of a bat. They were open to their full length and must have been at least 12 feet from tip to tip. The arms of this thing were very long and skinny and ended in long bony fingers tipped with what appeared to be long talons. The legs in this being were comparable with the arms, long and skinny, but I was unable to really look at the feet to see if they were also shaped similarly to the hands. I stood there and saw this thing for about 30 seconds as it seemingly looked around the ground. In the time I was looking, no fewer than 2 others had come down the walkway and also saw it. If it had looked up, it would have clearly seen us all staring in bewilderment at it. It just kept its head down, looking at the ground until an encroaching service vehicle seemingly startled it and it looked up. And that's where I saw its head was short and squat, but had a pair of piercing red eyes. It looked in the direction of the approaching vehicle and then began to flap its wings and took to the air. It disappeared above the buildings in the span of 1 or 2 seconds, and it was gone out of sight. I've heard many of the stories of the supposed O'Hare Mothman from pilots, from other controllers and employees around the airport. I've heard tales of people seeing it in flight or perched somewhere, and how it had glowing red eyes and looked like a giant man bat. Many of my fellow controllers have told of either seeing it themselves or hearing from others who have seen it. It's been the subject of radio chatter on multiple occasions. I never gave much credence to these stories, and even though part of me believed and hoped it was real, seeing it myself only helped me become a true believer. Yeah, that's the thing. And how do you reconcile that? I mean, this is that one moment where, and I don't know this person, what his beliefs were prior to this, but I've got to believe that this is an experience that resets your life. You know, it's, you suddenly, the whole world just changed on a dime, you know. It says, I personally know of 3 other controllers who've seen this thing and just as many pilots who have reported sightings around the airport. You can say it's kind of built up an almost legendary urban tale sort of status amongst those who work at O'Hare. I know that what I saw was real and want to get my story out there for others to hear. And I want them to know that this thing really is out there somewhere and that trained professionals like myself have seen it and know that it does exist. I hope you find my report useful, and if you wish to contact me, I'd be willing to answer questions. So there it is, another report, ladies and gentlemen, from the O'Hare, Chicago O'Hare area. And if you check out Singular 40 and through their archives and stuff, you'll find dozens more like this of people. They had covered one where a guy he was a delivery guy. He was delivering cargo or picking up cargo. I don't remember which. But he was parked while they were either unloading his trailer or loading his trailer. And he sat there and he saw this Mothman thing, much like this, that was just described, land on the other side of a fence. And then just kind of hanging around on the tarmac area or wherever. You know, they're obviously on the outskirts of the actual airport proper when, you know, you're dealing with cargo and stuff. But, you know, it's these sightings are coming in, and it's not exclusively at the airport. Many people driving along in Illinois have talked of seeing these bat-like creatures or these Mothman-like creatures swooping down towards cars or whatever. And some of them are smaller even. Like they're almost like moth toddlers or something. I don't know. Some of the reports are much smaller than the large 7-foot range. They're more like the 3-foot range or 2-foot range in some of them. So are those just immature ones? Who knows? But they're coming from somewhere, or at least they're thriving there. Maybe they're doing just fine wherever they are, and they don't seem to be too bothered by us. But being black and probably nocturnal, they blend in pretty well, I'm sure. They're not real easy to see. So there you have it. That was one story I wanted to cover with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. And again, singular40.com is where you'll find more of those reports of the Mothman. All right. Now I've got an article that I wanted to go through with you. I got to find it, though. Here we go. So now this is one of those blanket articles, and they cover cryptids that we talk about all the time. And I have no question that many of these exist. Some of them are a little new to me, but I glanced through the article a little bit tonight before. But I got to tell you, one of them right away is potentially what we just talked about. So this article is coming from mentalfloss.com, and it's 16 cryptids that might or might not exist. Might or might not. That's like every cryptid. But it's a good headline. It's a good headline. It says, and I do have to apologize, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines don't work tonight. I don't know why. If they're having some sort of trouble at the server end of this or what, but I can't get an answer at all. I've tried multiple times. So I do apologize that you can't call in and be a part of the show tonight. That's obviously not what I want. I love it when you guys can call in. So I do apologize for that. But anyway, let's continue. Cryptozoology and the study of creatures whose existence has yet to be or else cannot entirely be proved or disproved by science. These creatures, known collectively as cryptids, include examples like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, the Himalayan Yeti. Yet these famous cases are by no means the only ones on record. In fact, practically every country and corner of the globe has its own legendary monster or mystery creature that supposedly dwells there, from giant bats in Java to enormous waterhounds in Ireland. So I always get a kick out of that figure of speech, from all corners of the globe. Well, a globe didn't have no corners. I don't know what they're talking about. There's no corners on a globe. All right. The first one is the Ahool, Ahool. Ahools are an enormous carnivorous bats that are said to inhabit the rainforests of Java in Indonesia. Believed to have a wingspan in excess of 10 feet, making them roughly the same size as a condor. Ahools are said to be covered in a thick brown or black fur like fruit bats, but unlike bats, have long, powerful legs and claws and are supposedly capable of pouncing on and snatching up live prey, including humans. If the stories are to be believed, from open ground, sightings of ahools are often dismissed simply as mistaken glimpses of owls, eagles, and other large birds of prey that inhabit the same rainforests, but some sources claim the creatures do indeed exist and may even be an isolated and as of yet undiscovered species descended from pterosaurs. Well, you know, the thing is that description is very similar to what was covered at the O'Hare Airport. So the question could be, did they exist on Java? Do they exist on Java? And is it possible that they've migrated? Now, if they're a winged creature, theoretically, they could migrate anywhere, right? If they just hopscotched on land masses as they went, they could probably circumnavigate the globe. I think that's an interesting concept anyway, but how many big 12-foot wingspan bats could there be? We just talked about one just a moment ago, but it was 7 feet tall. So it sounds like a really enormous one, but what if? I think there's more than just a little bit of similarity between that. Now, we know Bigfoot is a global phenomena, and it's obviously not called Bigfoot everywhere, but I think it's a globally recognized name for all of these different regional names, for Yowies, Yeren, Yeti, all of the many names in the Americas for them, for the Woodwose, the Gray Man, the Woodawasa, the Grogok. There's all kinds of weird names of these large man-like beasts. And so is it also possible then that these Mothmen might have relatives around the globe as well? Maybe it's not just Bigfoot that's widespread, or Dogmen that's widespread. Maybe all of these cryptids are global in some sense or another. It's hard to know. Now, you hear things in discussions of cryptids, you hear things about how possibly they could travel. And I know there's lots of legends of like these extinct lava tubes that are far underground and could be used to navigate under oceans to other places entirely. And maybe that's true. And maybe it's not. I don't know. It seems hard to believe that there would be just these super highways that were once lava tubes that are, oops, almost tipped over my bottle, that are almost, that were at one point flowing lava tubes, but are now just these huge long tunnels or mazes of tunnels as it may be. But the point being that if that is true, that could certainly talk or lend a possibility to the biodiversity of them being everywhere. I don't know. Just food for thought. But that's the Ahul. If you haven't heard of that, now you have. That's from Indonesia. This one's a tough one. This has got a whole lot of letters in the name, and I'm going to do my best. But I'm betting I'm probably going to brutalize this, so just be prepared. All right, this is the Akoro Kamui. Akoro Kamui. I think that's right. I think I've got it right. Akoro Kamui. It says the native Ainu people of Japan have long believed that Volcano Bay off the south coast of Hokkaido is home to an enormous octopus called the Akorakumi. Numerous sightings of the creature have been made over the years. British missionary named John Batchelor, who was working on Hokkaido in the early 1900s, recorded one such sighting in his book, The Ainu and Their Folklore, writing that a great sea monster with large staring eyes had attacked 3 local fishermen in their boat. The monster was round in shape and emitted a dark fluid and noxious odor. The 3 men fled in dismay, not so much indeed for fear, they say, but on account of the dreadful smell. However that may have been, they were so scared that the next morning all 3 refused to get up and eat. They were lying in their beds, pale and trembling. Yeah, there's all kinds of wrong with being on the menu. I think that's, we're not used to being on the menu anymore, and for good reason, and most of us aren't. We aren't in places where we're on the menu, but that's got to just terrify the hell out of you. So you're fishing, you're doing something you love. Maybe it's how they make their living, I imagine, and just bringing home the daily bread kind of thing. And all of a sudden this large round monster comes out of the depths and starts trying to get you. I mean, that's got to be a horrid, horrid way to look at what could be the end of your life. Oh, I don't know, man. That's horrible. Okay, here's another weird name. This is Altamaha-ha. Altamaha-ha. And it's spelled Altamaha-ha. So it's the Altamaha-ha. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of any cultures or regions. It's just my Midwest palate trying to shape these words is always humorous to me. So I apologize if I'm brutalizing it. But it's the Altamaha. Altamaha is a 20 to 30 foot long river monster with large flippers and seal-like snout that is said to inhabit the mouth of the Altamaha River near Darien, Georgia. Although numerous accounts of sightings of the Altamaha have apparently been made over the years, the fact that Darien is founded as New Inverness by a band of Scottish Highlanders in 1736 seems to suggest that the legend is probably nothing more than a descendant of the Scots settlers' tales of the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know though. Do you think it's possible, ladies and gentlemen, these guys were just bored and they just decided to create the Nessie myth in their new place? I'm not so convinced. And here's the thing. There's bodies of water everywhere, obviously around the globe, but the surprising number of claims of these great sea monsters or waterborne creatures that exist in these large inland lakes. This isn't a phenomena that's isolated within Loch Ness. I mean, there's Lake Champlain. There's Lake Pend Oreille right out here in my neck of the woods as the tale of the Pend Oreille paddler. There's so many claims of these large waterborne beings that are terrifying people. So isn't it possible? And if you watch Jeremy Wade on River Monsters, some of the crap he pulls out of water, I can't even believe. I mean, some of those fish are absolutely terrifying. It's just, he's wrestling them for 45 minutes trying to pull them in and stuff. That guy's amazing. He's pretty incredible. Obviously he's very good at what he does, but he's pulled some absolute monsters out, that could very well be man-eaters. And, it wouldn't even be a question. Like some of those big catfish kind of things with the mouths that are about the size of, my desk, which is, well bigger than me, could just open their mouth and suck you right in. Like, the way they suck in water and it just creates this vacuum. It's like, boom, gone. And that would be it. What would you do? Nothing. You die. That's what you do. At least you drown, but I don't think this is just a case of, we're just talking about home and it got confused and now they think it's here. I don't think so at all. I think that they probably very well saw some large river thing. I lived on the Mississippi River and and it's always been a muddy river. It's always been dirty ever since, forever because, the Mississippi mud, it's a silty sedimentary river. And nothing, you can't see anything in that water. You can walk out, in knee-deep water and you can't see your feet. That's where I grew up swimming in that soup. And much more polluted version, of course, but I saw things washed up on the shore that I didn't recognize as a kid. Some of them I would come to recognize later in life, like the paddle-nose. There's a paddle-nose fish. It looks kind of like a sturgeon, except it looks like it has like a flattened spoon snout. Then there's the big gars. The gars are absolutely frightening looking. Look like a cross between a fish and an alligator. I've seen those. I've caught those, smaller versions. And then sturgeon themselves. Sturgeon are enormous. They can grow enormous. Definitely river monster quality fish. So I think that these ancient bodies of water have a lot of stuff in them that we probably don't know. I don't know. But they're there. I think they are. I don't think that that's unusual at all. So I think their claim is not real accurate here. Now I got to find my article again. Here we go. I'm going to read another one. This one's the Dobar Chu. Dobhrharchu. The Dobar Chu, or waterhound, is a legendary otter-like animal that supposedly lives in isolated freshwater loughs and rivers in Ireland. Usually described as a half-dog, half-fish hybrid, with a long snaking body covered in thick fur, the Dobar Chu is large and heavy set, but can move very fast both in the water and on land. Even according to one story, being able to keep up with a galloping horse. Sightings of the creature date back several centuries in Ireland, and there are at least 2 gravestones, including one in County Leitrim, dating back as far as 1722, of people who were reportedly attacked and killed by the Dobar Chu. Now I gotta wonder about that. In Scotland, of course, they got the giant otters. Is this Ireland's version of that? I don't know what the name for the ones in Scotland are, but there's been claims that could, in fact, some of the sightings of Nessie just be these large, huge otters that are alleged to live in there. And I suppose it's possible. I don't know. But I mean, otters aren't a slow animal on land, even the little dinky ones. They can move pretty good. So I suppose if it was scaled up the size of a large dog, they could probably cruise. I don't know. They're probably more sprinters than marathon runners, but and in water, of course, they would be like lightning. But very, very wild. And some of these, like that one, I'd never heard of before. I've heard of the large otters that are allegedly in Scotland, but maybe those have always been Ireland and Irish in origin. I don't know. But here's another one. Let me see what I got for time here. I got a minute. Let me read this next one. The Emila Tauka. Native of Central African tribes believe that the swamps of the Congo Basin to be inhabited by an enormous semi-aquatic creature known as the Emela Ntauka. Similar but larger than a hippopotamus and armed with a single long bony tusk or horn in the center of its forehead. The Emela Ntauka is apparently herbivorous, but like the hippo, has a reputation for being dangerously confrontational when disturbed, and has even been known to turn on and kill creatures even larger than itself. Its name means elephant killer. Wow. Got to wonder if that could be a rhino. Sounds kind of like a rhino. But anyway, last break, ladies and gentlemen. 1.5 hour to go, so don't go away. I'll be right back, and we'll grind out the last half hour together. everybody. 1.5 hours to go here on the Paranormal Portal. That sound. Did you hear that? It was like, meow, come through the speakers. That's got to be the feedback we're getting from the Skype connection. Let me do this again. I got to clear it up because that's noisy as hell. Again, it's not as bad as it had been, but hang on, TFR. I'll be right back with you. Don't go away. And we're connecting and trying it again. I mean, listen to that. That was horrible. And now I'll reconnect. And it'll be just brilliant. It'll be just brilliant, like this. Pristine, nice, quiet. I don't know what those breaks do. Why does it add so much static in the mix? I don't know. Very curious and peculiar. I know that, I can't blame it on my connection anymore because we're rocking full fiber up here in the portal. So we have the speed of light on our side, which is awesome, but still picking up a lot of just staticky crap. Don't know why. It's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But we are gliding through a night of cryptids, a safari of the cryptids tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And so we have been going through several of them. We've got several more to go. There's a lot of weird ones in here. Now, the last one, again, that was the Emela Ntauka. Tauka, maybe. Ntauka. I don't know. It's by description, it sounds like a rhino. It's like a hippo, only bigger. Has one like spike coming out of its forehead. Well, I don't know. That could sound a lot like a rhino, really. Maybe there's a water rhino or something in the Congo. I don't know. Very strange. But then there's the what is it? Mbembe, the basically like a brontosaurus that is still believed to exist potentially in the Congo as well. Adam Davies did a whole expedition. I think he's the first successful person, the first person who successfully conducted an expedition across the Congo Basin. And I don't know. I'm not very familiar with what was discovered on that, and that's my own fault. I gotta do more reading. Unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of time. But when Adam was on the show, we talked about that a little, and I got to tell you, I can't imagine the lengths of and fortitude that it took for that whole escapade to happen, because that land, I mean, many of the places they were may never have seen human beings before. I don't know. I know the Congo Basin is supposedly just about impenetrable, so the fact that they did an expedition across that, to me, is nothing short of a Herculean feat. But whatever it was, I don't think they found I'm probably brutalizing that name, the Mokele Mbembe or something. Mokele Mbembe, I think, is the name, and it's supposed to be like this brontosaurus kind of creature. And I guess the name means the stopper of rivers, so it's so big that when it was in the waters, it would literally like dam up the water in its presence. I know there's been people that have gone there and looked. And the interesting thing about that, though, is that these villagers who are leading very primitive lives, the interesting thing is that they lead these very primitive lives with no written recorded history, no sciences to speak of. These are simple village people that are living, rough. They're living rough. There's not a single convenience, and they can recognize dinosaurs. And going through a dinosaur book, apparently one of the teams that went through there had a dinosaur book of some kind with them, and the people were like, "Oh yeah, that." And they talked about the brontosaurus, and they said that's the Mokele Mbembe, and apparently they also recognized pterosaurs or pterodactyls and things like that we have long since believed to be gone from our world. But maybe they're still around. I don't know. It's pretty incredible. The fact that they would recognize those things and have a name for them, and even have witnesses to having seen them, like hunters that would talk to the researchers about having seen them, to me there's got to be something to that, because these are not the kind of people that would fabricate a bunch of lies just to to make up stories for the tourists. These are, an honest folk, I assume. Not that they couldn't be duplicitous, but it doesn't seem that it would make sense that they could recognize it, have a name for it, describe the things, including the tracks and what the tracks would look like, and not have any idea about it. So there is merit to them saying that they're there and having a name for it. And I think that that's very powerful. Now, the next one is called the Filico Terrace. The waters off the coast of Cape Greco National Park in Cyprus are supposedly home to a sea monster known locally as Filico Terrace, or the friendly monster. As its name suggests, the monster has apparently never attacked humans, but it has nevertheless gained a reputation for destroying fishermen's nets and upturning smaller boats. Stories of the Filico Terrace are probably inspired by the Greek legend of Scylla, Scylla, a huge sea monster that attacks Odysseus' boat in the Odyssey. But in truth, sightings of this creature are probably nothing more than mistaken sightings of squids or octopus. I don't know. Again, it's like, I think it's a pretty bold thing to just come up and say, well, they're probably just absolutely mistaken and making crap up. They might as well just be saying that in this article. I think if there's a legend, there's a truth somewhere in that stuff. I think that it's very naive to look at these localized legends and give them absolutely no credence at all. I think that every legend is born of some truth, and it's absolutely hubris to not even address that as a possibility. But again, we're so smart. We know everything, right? Just ask us. Anyway. Okay, so this one is the Groot slang. Groot slang. I am Groot slang. The Groot slang, or Great Snake, is a legendary monster said to dwell in the caves of Richtersveld, a mountainous desert region in northwestern South Africa. In local mythology, the Groot slangs were primordial creatures comprised of the head and front of an elephant and the back and tail of an enormous serpent. When the earth was created, the Groot slangs were all apparently destroyed, but according to legend, some survived and retreated to the deepest caves of the Northern Cape province. Tales of enormous tusked snakes, probably inspired by real-life sightings of enormous pythons that live in the same area, have rumbled on in South African folklore ever since. The mysterious disappearance of a British diamond magnate named Peter Grayson in the Richtersveld caves in 1917 is sometimes blamed on the Groot slang. Groot slang. Interesting. Looks like an elephant with a snake's body. That's horrible. That'd have to be a horrible way to die. Well, here we go with the Jersey Devil. Now we're getting into more familiar territory here. And this is, of course, the Jersey Devil is a cryptid said to live in the Pine Barrens region of New Jersey. According to the legend, the creature was the unwanted 13th son of one of the state's earliest settlers, Mother Leeds, who offered her son to the devil on his birth in 1735 because she and her husband couldn't afford to raise another child. Well, then you probably shouldn't have been doing the ugly then, should you? Ever since then, hundreds of reported sightings of a grotesque two-legged hooved monster with a sheep-like head and large scaly wings have been reported in the Pine Barrens, including one famous incident in the winter of 1909 where the long trail of hooved footprints crossing under fences and over walls and rooftops mysteriously appeared in the snow one night. Huh. Maybe it was Santa. Sorry, I can't help myself. It's impossible for me to help myself completely, so it has to sneak out sometimes. But, again, we've talked to witnesses that have seen some version of these things currently. Even one witness who claims to have taken pictures of smaller ones. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. Very, very cool. Again, there's a legend. There's a root to that legend that is maybe born in truth. And to ignore that, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. So this is the Mapungwari. the Mapinguari. And it says the Mapinguari is a large ape-like creature said to inhabit the rainforests straddling the border between Brazil and Bolivia. According to local folklore, the Mapinguari stands around 8 feet tall, has a tough and apparently bulletproof covering of scales on its back, thick red fur on its head and belly, long curved claws, and, if all the stories are to be believed, a second mouth in the center of its stomach. When approached by humans, the Mapinguari is said to rear up on its hind legs like a bear and can supposedly produce a foul-smelling scent to ward off potential hunters. As recently as 2007, a sighting was reported in the New York Times. That's very interesting. It's just, the picture that they give looks like a large sloth, like the old giant sloths of prehistoric lore. I don't know. Here we go with one of our more regional sea monsters. This is Ogopogo. The Ogopogo is a vast water serpent said to reside in Lake Okanagan in British Columbia. Sightings of the Ogopogo date back to the early 1800s, when the creature was originally known by the native name of Nhaitaka, which means lake devil. The name Ogopogo wasn't adopted until 1920s, when it was lifted from the title of a popular English musical hall number called the Ogopogo, the funny foxtrot. I'm looking for the Ogopogo, the funny little Ogopogo. His mother was an earwig. His father was a whale. I'm going to put a little bit of salt on his tail. Well, there you go. That's the legend of the Ogopogo. They don't give any meat to that at all. They just talk about, hey, there's another one, and it's based on this. The name is based on this song, The End. Well, it's reported to be some kind of large being living in the depths of Lake Okanagan. A lot of native tales dating back, dealing with this thing attacking them. So, but they don't give any of that stuff in there. Now, this one looks creepy if this picture is close to what they're describing. So this is the Olgoi Kokoyo. Oh, God. Korkhoi. Olgoi Korkhoi. The name Olgoi Korkhoi means large intestine worm in Mongolian, but this 4-foot-long subterranean cryptid is more like a giant earthworm than a parasitic tapeworm. Also known less subtly as the Mongolian death worm, the Olgo Korkhoi, apparently lives beneath the sands of the southern Gobi Desert, only coming up to the surface in the warmer summer months when the ground becomes too wet for it to survive. Sightings of the worms date back several centuries amongst the native Mongolians, many of whom claim the Olgoi Korkhoi is able to spit venom and even acid from its mouth, while its body is apparently coated with such a toxic slime that anyone who happens to touch it will be instantly killed. Yeah, you definitely want to give them a wide berth. If you come across the Mongolian death worm, ladies and gentlemen, go wide. Go deep. It's not something you want to go up and pet. Now, again, yeah, it's a legend. Is it real? Who knows? Could be. Momo is next. This is from Missouri. Missouri Monster. Momo. There it goes. Momo is short for Missouri Monster, is a mysterious ape man similar to Bigfoot, which is said to inhabit the forest alongside the Mississippi River as it passes through Missouri. First reported in 1971, Momo is described as 7 to 8 feet tall with a broad pumpkin-shaped head and is supposedly covered head to toe in thick, dark fur. According to some accounts, the creature is notoriously aggressive, and like the South American Mapinguari, is able to produce a grotesque smell, even worse than a skunk's, in order to ward off its would-be attackers. Well, that's, and that's certainly not distinctive to Momo. Obviously, Bigfoot are known to emit horrible toxic smells. And again, I think, I think many people would agree that it's some kind of gland that they have that's, when they're stressed, it just emits a musky odor that's just horrid. I used to have a California king snake. I love the snake. It was really cool, and I thought it was really neat that the snake could be bit several times by a rattlesnake and the venom wouldn't hurt it, and it would eat rattlesnakes. I thought that was kind of cool because where I lived in Minnesota was at the foot of Rattlesnake Bluff. That's what the name of the bluff was called. And I never really saw them growing up, but I just thought, well, I got a king snake. So it was kind of a calm thing. It wasn't a huge snake. It was only about 3.5, 4 foot long, but it was, it was cool. But the one thing about this snake is if I was too quick, when I picked it up, it would do the same thing. It would excrete this terrible musky scent, like through its anus or whatever. It was just horrible. I had to go wash the snake off and my hands off and stuff many times just because, but it's like this fear factor kicked it in. I must have startled the snake, and all of a sudden it's like, and it's this horrible stuff. It's just nasty, nasty. And so I had to go wash it off. But I had a corn snake, had a boa constrictor. They never did that. They never did anything like that. But those California king snakes will do that musky odor. And that's very similar to what I think the Sasquatch have, is when they're stressed, something activates those glands. And they're, I've not smelled the smell myself. And I don't think I ever want to. But I've heard many people describe it as being like just disgusting, rotting meat, garbage, skunk, all combined together. Just the worst of all the smells. And that's what that odor is like. And it's absolutely just oppressive. Like, it's nature's mace, I guess, would be probably the best comparison. But it apparently makes people want to vomit. It's so horrible. It just kind of makes you do the gag reflex. And it stands to reason. So here's another one. It's called Shuck, S-H-U-C-K. Not heard of this one. The folklore of the British Isles is littered with tales of mysterious black dogs that supposedly haunt rural towns and villages across the country. The Shuck, a huge black hound said to dwell in East Anglia on the far eastern coast of England, is probably one of the most famous, having apparently attacked a church in the village of Bungay, Suffolk, during a thunderstorm in 1577. According to local records, while the villagers were sheltering from the storm in the church, a huge black dog burst through the church door, killing a man and his son, and pulling down one of the pillars supporting the church steeple, which collapsed into the nave. And as it fled the church, the Shuck apparently left scorch marks in the wood of the church door that can still be seen to this day. So that's horrible. I don't know. Is it a devil dog? Is it an actual unique thing, or is it just another one of those hellhound stories? It sounds more like a hellhound than an actual being. It sounds like some kind of spiritual manifestation, but horrible nonetheless. Yeah, that's terrible. Here's another one. This is called the tatzelworm. Sounds like a dragon. Tatzelworms are lizard-like creatures that are supposed to inhabit the most isolated region of the Alps. Although accounts of their size and appearance vary, they are typically said to be around 2 to 5 feet in length, with a broad cat-like head and wide gaping mouth. Their forelimbs are short and armed with long claws. But they have no hind legs, and instead their bodies taper to a long snake-like tail. Numerous sightings of the creatures, which are known as tatzelworms in Germany, arasas in France, stolen worms in Switzerland, Bergstutzen in Australia, and basiliscos in Italy, have been made all over the Alps, including a recent spate of sightings reported in Italy's Il Giorno newspaper as recently as 2009. Wow. Now here's another sea monster called Tessie. Where the hell is this one? They didn't even have a unique name. It's Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe. Tessie is a lake monster said to live in the waters of Lake Tahoe in central California. Sightings of Tessie date back to at least the 19th century and usually describe a vast snake-like creature with a long neck, a humpback, that swims so fast that it can even keep up with sailboats. Strangely, according to local folklore, Tessie sightings are always more common in even-numbered years than in odd. So they They didn't even waste much time coming up with that name, did they? What is it? What's the one in Scotland? Nessie? Let's call ours Tessie. Here's another thing with these lake monsters, and I think that this is probably exploited pretty regularly in terms of cryptids. In that, I grew up on Lake Pepin and talked about Peppy, is the name of the lake monster that's alleged to live there. Never any credible sightings that I ever heard of, except one. One person claims and swears they saw this large serpentine thing swimming in a bay. And she's a reputable person, so maybe there's something to that. But I grew up in that lake. I swam in it daily in the summers all my life. I nearly drowned in it several times. And never, ever saw anything resembling a sea monster. I lived right on the lake shore. I always watched the sunsets. I never saw anything on that water. The only thing I'll tell you is that sometimes late at night, if you're out and it's real still, you would hear a splashing out there that was so huge. It was just absolutely shocking, like a really loud splash. Could it be? Maybe, but it's probably just some big river carp or something like that. Some ungodly big carp that's just splashing around, doing their thing. But all that aside, I never knew about it growing up until I was an adult. And one of the times that I heard about it first was from the city of Lake City, which is south of where I grew up, just by about 10 miles. That's the birthplace of water skiing, by the way, birthplace of water skiing. And they decided, the mayor of the town put up a $1 million bounty for anybody that can bring back proof of Peppy. And the mayor of the town also owned the biggest hotel in town. And sure enough, he's every summer has been filling up his hotel with people coming to claim that $1 million, looking for proof of Peppy. I'm here to tell you, you can't see anything in that water. If it was right next to you, you wouldn't even know it, except you'd feel a current as it swam by. So how the hell anybody's going to bring back proof at all is amazing. But it drums up tourism. It's a tourism, tourism ploy. And granted, why not? I don't care. If people want to go look for it and that's fun for them, fantastic. But I think that it also tends to take away from the very valid and real efforts that are out there of people trying to find cryptids. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. People can have fun with it. That's fine. But last one on our list. Let me look at the time, because it's one that it doesn't matter if we really cover or not. We all know the answer to this one. But it's the Yowie, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm here to tell you, Yowies are real. There's no question. They're as real as Bigfoot. Absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I've talked to several witnesses myself. I've talked to Dean. I've talked to Cade. I've talked to many, many people. I have no doubt in my mind that these things are very real. They're very much out there and over there. And they are pretty much Bigfoot. A little bit different in some minor ways. But other than that, they're there. But anyway, this says Yowies are a species of Bigfoot-like apes said to inhabit the Australian outback. Not just the outback. Usually described as tall and stocky and covered head to foot in thick black hair or dark red fur. Most accounts of Yowie sightings claim the creatures are shy and very easily spooked, although some tales claim they can be confrontational and can produce a blood-curdling scream when threatened. Nowadays, the creatures are generally considered a myth. Not true. But in the 19th century, sightings were remarkably common, to the extent that in 1892, Australian amateur adventurer and scholar named Herbert J. McCooey, who had supposedly spotted a Yowie near Bartman's Bay in New South Wales several years earlier, wrote to the Australian Museum in Sydney, offering to capture one of the creatures for a fee of £40, which is around 3,000 US or 1,800 pounds today. He failed. Well, yeah, because they're not, these things are not just bricks. They're not a rock just waiting around to be caught. I think that they're plenty smart. They may even be telepathic. They might even know what we're thinking. I don't know. There's lots of claims like that out there, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know. Will they ever be captured? I don't know if they'll ever be captured, but maybe guys like Australian Yowie Research will bring back some awesome proof, and then the story will be put to rest. Then the new adventure begins. So, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our cryptid roundup. I hope you've enjoyed it. Stick around if you're on TFR iHeart. Tune in or TalkStream Live because Paisley Wild's coming up next with the spaces between. She's a dear friend of ours, and she does a lot of hard work on her show. So definitely support it if you like learning about esoteric and occult and pagan practices and energy. It's great. She does a wonderful job, and she puts her heart into it. So definitely support that if you would. And then later on TFR iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live. World Bigfoot Radio comes up. So lots going on yet here on the Horn. So don't leave just yet. Those of you on YouTube, love you guys. Thank you so much. Those of you on TFR, love you all. Thank you so much. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. I'll be back tomorrow with Don. We'll see you then.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without